Oh, are we pinned? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Oh, your head is cut off. Let's not do that. There we go. Okay. Happy to see everyone. Thank you for being here. But before we begin, maybe scan all of you. Awesome. Let's walk up to the creator of all that is. Everybody take a deep breath in, close your eyes, and gather all the energy from the bottoms of your feet. Go through your space and see yourself in a beautiful ball of light. It can be any color, but take it up through the sky and the universe, the series of white lights and dark lights and golden lights. Keep going up through that jelly-like substance and into that tingly white light. Let unconditional love fill every cell of your body. While you're there, say, Creator, thank you for my life. Take a deep breath in and open your eyes. Okay, let's make sure that I have the topic correct. Ah, yes, boundaries versus avoidance. The line between self-respect and self-sabotage. Most definitely.
That's the line?
Oh, for sure.
I like it. It's a good line, I guess.
I mean, when you're a healed person, or at least you've got, basically embodied yourself and recognized who you are a little bit more, or come into your sovereign, you start to recognize some of those boundaries that you have, and you put them out there so that it doesn't, I guess that's where the line comes in. So there's not that inflicted pain that you have from avoiding and not actually what goes on, because I think that the avoidance really comes from that suppression of fear, where you are worried about all the things that are going on, whether or not it's going to affect somebody so much. Or, I mean, of course, we always want to take people into account, but then it becomes an overly worry, or then you're worried about what are they going to think of me, or how are things going to come. It becomes that avoidance where you no longer have a communication or a level of respect, not only for the people that you're with, but yourself. I mean, that's how I see it.
It's a good way to say it. It's a very good way to say it. I think anytime you start talking about boundaries and lines, you're talking about communicating with the pressures of life and the way
Sure.
that you experience pressures. And I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding that goes on in communications with yourself, and a lot of misunderstanding goes on with communications with the world around you.
We all definitely communicate differently. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Just that alone is a hard subject, because you and I, even alone, speak differently and communicate differently.
Well, you feel everything that you feel, you're communicating, right? And the
Yeah.
way that we feel things is unique to each of us, unique information, unique experience, unique lens, and that uniqueness has going to be shared. So we start talking about boundaries, you start talking about avoidance. When you set those boundaries up, you're basically setting them up to avoid certain things in your life, right? I mean, that's what they're set up for.
To an extent, or you're just allowing yourself to have that room to be you. If my girlfriend yesterday says, I, we were going to get together, and I would like to actually spend time sleeping. She wasn't avoiding the topic of let's not get together. She was able to set her boundary and say, I really need to get some sleep. I'm very tired. I would love to get together with you, but I need a nap. I'm just overly tired. I've been working all week long. I've been taking care of my kids. There was no avoidance. She wasn't trying to avoid having time with me. She was just tired.
But there
So
could have been. The
then
same reaction could have been an avoidance tactic, right?
it could have been, but she was able to actually share with herself and others, in the situation, whether it was mine or this one, that's how she felt, because she felt like she could. And I think that having that relationship where you can actually say that, hey, this is my boundary. I can communicate this without feeling like you're stepping on their toes, or that they are taken away from the relationship in any sort of regard, definitely allows that Remember, sovereignty, but allows you to have that healed aspect of your boundaries and recognizing that you have space that can be held with people that you love and care about in the same regard.
Those are all very good points. I mean, I think on the other side of things, when you start to look at it, the same set of tactics that you start to put in can start to lead to being reasons that your subconscious starts to avoid things, right?
I can see that.
So then you can say, well, I don't want to go through that because that's my boundary. And then before long, you've created such a strong boundary that nobody's coming in and nothing's going on, and you're sitting there going, how come this isn't happening, or how come that isn't happening? And it's
I mean, I can see why you say that. Yeah.
well, because in order for it to be like a real boundary, there has to be communication and
Hmm.
understanding. And then in order to extend it to a relationship, there has to be uh, an honoring of another person's boundary, right?
Yes.
So, like with your friend, you had made time for her, but she wanted to like honor you by saying, I would still do it. So she's moving her boundary and saying, I would still come hang out with you, but I would like to sleep. But she's showing it up. Like, so she's communicating. There's a lot of depth to that communication.
Yes. It
And
is very, very kind about being able to put it out there that, hey, this is how I feel. I understand that you understand that I'm tired. It's okay. There's a respect level, not just a, hey, I'm taking from you and I'm avoiding the situation altogether.
but not something that happened in 5 seconds, right? It took a communication of boundaries and understanding what was going on in each other's lives, I'm assuming.
Of course.
So in doing so, kind of setting that up and knowing like how it can be a boundary can become an excuse to avoid something, right?
I, for some people, it might. I
Yeah.
mean, I can see your point. For some people, they might use that as something that they can absolutely avoid. But usually it's more of a conscious thing rather than a subconscious thing. So a conscious thing using that boundary is consciously aware that you're actually using that boundary rather than trying to just avoid it, but as a way of respect. So when we're talking about these subjects, we're using it as a respect thing, not as a avoidance thing.
I
So
understand.
two different things.
But with everything that we talk about, there's always like the balance, right? There's always when do you use it? We talk about virtues, we talk about
Mhm.
emotions, we talk about how they're going, and it's about knowing the balance of yourself in the moment and knowing how that interacts with the world around you and the way that it's going to be received, right? So we don't call up and tell our work that we're going to take a nap because we're tired, because it's not something that works for the boundaries they've set.
I mean, that may be true, but now you're just making an excuse or avoiding the actual topic of why you're not wanting to go to work. Totally two different things. Something now you've decided to make as more of a stress thing, more out of fear. And that's where the avoidance comes in. Fear, suppression, the pressure, worried about not actually following through on actually being honest and honoring the other person, whether it's a company, yourself, the person, whatever. You don't agree?
No, I agree. I think it's a topic that's full of a lot of depth. Like
There's a lot of depth to it.
there's so many conversations that go on that are boundaries in life. Like you could sit here right now and start to think about what your boundaries are. And then at the same time, you could think about all the situations that you would move those boundaries a little bit for. And you could think about all the situations that you
Sure.
would move those boundaries a lot for. So I imagine that if we really dive into it, we have like layers of boundaries, right? We have hard boundaries, medium boundaries,
Yeah.
soft boundaries.
And luckily, we're all our own people. So I guess depending on who we surround ourselves with, we would definitely know those hard boundaries and then those soft boundaries. When we have to use them, when not to use them, and what really makes us us. That's the best part about it. So if that communication, like you're talking about, knowing that we can communicate with the person or people or company or those that are around us and allow them to feel the same, that they can communicate back without feeling like it's an argument or avoiding the topic that it really is, which I think is kind of a beautiful thing because then you can actually have a good communication and a bond that you're growing to help make layers more and more strong.
Well, I mean, overall, I think working through avoidance is one of the greater characteristics of accomplishment, right? The less you avoid and the more that you're able to communicate and maintain yourself, the more you can accomplish.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's easy to get hidden behind some of these things and get into some of that avoidance, like, oh, I'll do that in an hour, or I'll do that in 5 hours. And we kind of rearrange our importance of things. So I think same topic, you stumble into how you rearrange your day, right? How your boundaries are set up for your day, what your needs are,
Mm.
what your desires are, and then how you're connecting to people around you and their needs and their desires. And I think a lot of times we get into that energy of avoidance when we kind of feel the pressure of other people's needs and we feel the pressure of what's going on in their life. Like, for instance, the work example, not going to
Mhm.
call in and say I'm sleeping, but you don't want to go to work. You would rather sleep. You have to avoid one of the two things. You either have to avoid losing your job or putting your job at risk or avoid sleep. And in that manner, you chose sleep that you're going to avoid, right? Because,
Well,
I mean, if your body's sleepy, it's for a reason. It's chemically maybe off a little bit. It's trying to heal, depression,
and
all kinds of stuff.
maybe that comes down to understanding and recognizing yourself, or maybe going to bed earlier. Like, yes, if you're avoiding not getting enough sleep, then it's pushing onto the other boundaries of how it would onto other people, like in a business. There's a lot, I see what you're saying. There's a lot of aspects to the avoidance, which could be depths and layers to help yourself understand that safety and trust with not only within yourself to actually have good boundaries. So you're not avoiding sleep. I mean, I can't tell you how many times the sleep gets avoided just so that, things can get done. I hear this all the time. I'm so tired. I'm so tired from so many different people all the time. Even I get tired because sometimes even I avoid sleep because things have to get done. So I get it. I see what you're saying. Makes sense.
So with all that different level of avoidance, like how do we get to how do you get to a point where you're defining your boundaries by experience rather than the pressure of trying to just deal with avoidance, right? Get through the day.
Exactly. And that's the whole point. That's exactly the whole point.
Well, I don't know. I'm asking, how
Recognizing
do you personally?
healing. I think that through my own journey, I have definitely gone through a healing, recognizing my own healing process, embodying myself, understanding where my pressures are, and being able to communicate with those that I love and around me so that I can say, this is my boundary. This is where I need it to be. This is, I'm really tired. I need to go to sleep tonight, whatever it is, as an example. But this is my boundary, and I don't want to push past this because it helps me feel trust and safety within myself and the relationship and things that move forward. And of course, there's always a discussion that allows for both sides to be seen and perspectives, because when you have that ability to have that communication within not only yourself, but with the people that you're talking with, it allows you to actually recognize that other perspectives may be gleaned or taken into account so that you can actually take those within yourself. I think that you've given me so many different perspectives on different things that I thought, wow, I never thought about that perspective before. That actually is a really good point. Maybe I can move my boundaries because of that perspective. That just not something I thought. So having those discussions really does help recognize, at least within myself, some of the things that go on, not only outside me, but within me, that maybe need to be worked with or changed, or to recognize that boundary. How do you do your boundaries?
Well, I have had a lot of perspective too, because moving a lot, going into a lot of different environments. I learned very young, like when you come into a new environment, there's so many things that you can do, right? You
Mhm.
you could be this, you can be that, and understanding that. Fortunately, I got the pressure of perspective from a very young age. I'm very fortunate for that
Yeah.
because in doing so, like, you learn what you want to move to and what you don't want to move to.
For sure.
and then you kind of sense the pressure that's going on. So one thing that I do is I just kind of take it all in. Like even now, if we have a new pressure or we feel what's going on, I take it all in, and then I go and ask, and I see, how do I belong? How does this belong? Sometimes there's conflict,
For
right?
sure.
But in my cells in my brain, as I'm processing, I'm deciding what's necessary for success, right? What's necessary for the long-term goal of not just myself, but everybody around me, right? And even if that's, oh, I think we had this discussion just about the kids or the other day, right? Like
Hmm.
sometimes there's just things that you have to do that you know they're not going to like, or that you don't, you feel like you have to do them, but because you've chosen with the boundary and with the avoidance
Yes.
issue, you know that you don't want to create an energy where they're taught avoidance, and an energy where they're taught something that won't benefit them, right? Because you can sense they're avoiding something. You're going to
Hmm.
sense they're avoiding
Doing
this,
homework.
yeah, or they're avoiding the responsibility of something else. And
Yes.
what you know as the person who's experienced things is the energy that they need. What you're figuring out is the way that they need it, right? And sometimes they'll hear that information and they'll take it with joy. And sometimes they'll hear that information and they'll take it with,
Yeah, butt heads and
yeah,
the
conflict.
conflict is the biggest one. Yeah.
Um,
Because then
especially,
because especially as they're teens and they're just
uh,
like, nope, this is my space. I'm trying to learn. And that's the best part about, as growing up, that you get to help them understand the different perspectives of life,
well,
what they're avoiding.
it's funny how often conflict gets used, right? Like some people get really reliant on conflict,
Yeah.
and some people avoid conflict. Conflict as a pressure in response to just boundaries
Yeah.
is huge, because a lot of those systems that are out there that are teaching people how to do things are teaching people how to push other people's boundaries with conflict, energetic conflict, right? Stand up and be the most confident person in the room and stand this certain way, and everyone will listen to you. Are they teaching you to be your truest, most authentic self and radiate that confidence? No. They're telling you to stand a certain way that will intimidate them to listen to you immediately or tear down that boundary, right? I can't tell you how many things that I've read or heard about from all these different things and the research on it. And they're not saying, okay, so stand in a way that shows that you're super approachable and kind and in
Nope.
connection to the moment, and that you care about everybody, and that you're going to accomplish your goals as a team. No, they tell you stand there like you're the person who's in charge. Wear the tie that says you're the one who's doing different things. And it's really, really super funny because Mark Cuban's very, very well-known businessman here in the United States, and he's on the show where they invest in other businesses, right?
The Shark Tank.
Yeah, that
Uh-huh.
show. And when he first goes into to work with these other people, they're all in business. They're wearing their ties, and the females have their business dress on, and it's all what you expect in boardrooms and corporate, and it's power versus power, right? And he shows up in his t-shirt and jeans. And one of the people who's on the show and him's like, "Why? What the heck are you doing wearing a t-shirt and jeans?" And he goes on to tell him, he's like, "This is who I am. This is just who I am. I'm a t-shirt and jeans guy. I am not a power suit and whatever dude." And he kind of applied that this whole time. And over time, the person started to realize that that actually made him the most powerful person in the room, being himself, right?
Hmm.
Being able to show up into the room and go, "This is who I am. And I don't really care if you like me or you don't. I got my seat at the table. I belong. I'm in the room." Right? I mean, how many relationship conversations do we have where we sit there and we wonder if somebody cares about us on a text message, especially when they're first starting? Like, "Do you even like me?" And they're texting you. right?
Well, obviously, if they like you, they would, they're texting you. If they don't like you, they'll stop texting you. I mean, that's the obvious to
Yeah.
me, but
But you don't know where their boundaries and where their avoidance is
yeah,
for anything. So you're over analyzing the situation. And I think this is such a fun topic because when you talk about it, it's not just our boundaries and
no.
avoidance that we're working through. It's when we show up, there's this automatic, oh, we should respect their boundaries. What are they? And we start avoiding them immediately rather than communicating. Like,
What's your boundary?
yeah, is this where this is going, or is this where this is going? Because essentially we've been turned into a whole bunch of pressure games, right? We're going to move the pressure to one point until somebody gets what they desire and then maybe end or not move forward. And
Well, this is that whole stress, fear-based, mentality that we're constantly working with all the time, and it's being pushed, and we're so used to it. It's almost like we don't even have blinders anymore of it because it just goes past us. We're like, oh yeah, fear. Okay, yeah, we're used to that. Oh yeah, fear. Because it's used in every single thing that's marketing, promotion, everything, fear-based everything. And so that's that avoidance that I think that we is used constantly. And we're just so programmed to be around it that it doesn't even phase us anymore. I think that's the hardest part about recognizing it when it becomes avoidance. Just go, yeah, okay.
well, yeah, I don't think you can have a boundary without understanding your value, and you can't understand your value without being able to know your relationship with fear and stop being driven by fear.
Yeah.
And so it makes it a very difficult kind of set of circumstances in your life to sit there and think about it. Like I could think about some of the boundaries you would like. You can write them down if you want later, now, whenever. When you think about those boundaries that you would like to put into your life, ask yourself what's stopping you from putting it in place.
Are you just so fearful that the people that are around are going to not like you anymore, or you're not going to have them as friends later because you pushed this boundary that said, hey, this is where I am, meet me.
I think we end up having a giant energy of sacrifice rather than connection because of it, right? We feel like we then start to sacrifice parts of ourselves that nobody ever knows we sacrificed. It's not like we sat down and said, I'm sacrificing this boundary for you. And then 10 years go by and we've been doing it and we just have this built up energy, right? It's squoze into your cells. Yes, I use that word.
Good luck, interpreters. Love you.
It's just there and it's inside your cells and it's been waiting for 10 years. And for 10 years, you've been doing it for a very specific reason for another person. And every day they've never noticed and you never told them.
Because you never told them. How are you supposed to? They're never going to see it because you never said, this is what I've been doing to have your love. This is what I've been doing to be accepted. This is what I've been doing to whatever. It's that's the hardest part about communication is that if we are constantly suppressing and there's that avoidance, then we're not communicating who we are. And every moment we have the opportunity to actually communicate who we are, our true authenticity, and not be worried about these whole things of boundaries because we all want to know, right? We just want to know so that we can all become together. We're all village mentality, really. We're not trying to avoid each other. We actually like each other, most of us.
That's probably one of my greatest gifts of all the situations that have gone on and understanding the boundary versus avoidance thing is when we sit in a room, I can kind of see all the things that people think they need to avoid, right? Or
Sure.
that they're trying to say I should avoid. And they kind of create these little bubbles. And um, I don't know why, but there's this massive amount of underestimation that comes from boundaries and avoidance. You know, we go through these peaks and valleys where we overestimate others and then underestimate ourselves, and then we overestimate ourselves and underestimate others. And we don't really find like a good, solid balance where we see it all. And for some reason, you just sit in a room and you see what's going on and you don't be very loud at first. People tend to think that means that you're not a boundary setter, right? You're not
Hmm.
somebody who's setting their boundaries or paying attention, and they can kind of push this way or push that way. And for me, it actually became a tool where I can figure out what motivations are pretty quick, right?
Actually,
Because
that's so true.
if I'm playing a basketball game and I don't say anything or I don't respond, they start moving in different directions and trying other things. And I can learn everything about their boundaries by not doing anything.
Because most people are always trying to fill in the gaps really quickly. If there's silence, that's usually what people are wondering. What are they thinking? Have I done something wrong? Especially if they don't know themselves really well and they feel confident in their own space and recognizing that silence isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's just you're just silent. If you can be together and just be silent, which we do all the time.
And the ways that, like, for instance, in basketball, the ways that people try to move you to do different things, always an entertaining thing to witness. It's the same in business, like the ways they try to make you do something or move you towards. If you're looking to see what to accomplish and how to accomplish, don't just follow where somebody's pushing you with their boundaries. Like understand where yours are and then have the conversation that lets the two mesh together, right?
Hmm.
And when that happens in those ways, in those different things, we feel those emotional triggers. We're supposed to be emotional. We now know that they have 450 signatures a day that every human has that's an emotion. Means everybody's feeling at least 450 times a day. I think that number is going to keep going up. I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as you start to recognize some of the emotions that you have, I mean, just these ones alone, being able to understand your boundaries and the avoidance tactics that happen. I mean, the self-respect, the understand, just those are all feelings. I mean, understanding yourself really makes a big difference in understanding your emotions.
Yeah. I mean, allowing yourself to kind of feel it and know that that feeling exists without having it be
A
a,
burden.
a burden or an overaction, right? You want it to know the impact of what's going on in every moment, know what you're creating, know how it's being created around you.
Hmm.
And when we start to set our boundaries up, those are oftentimes very changeable. We crave consistency in an ever-changing environment and an ever-changing body. And we crave consistency so that we have a knowledge base that we know ourselves in, right? We don't want to necessarily always put in the work to know ourselves in every moment. That's a lot of work, but it's not really.
No.
Sounds like a lot of work because we haven't been trained that way. The truth is, you were born knowing yourself. You were taught to ignore yourself in a lot of times and places so that you could fit in to everywhere else. And this started this giant energetic battle between how
Avoidance
important am I?
and
Yeah,
boundaries.
exactly.
Avoidance and
It
boundaries.
started a huge one.
Yeah.
And in order to move through that, you really got to kind of know who you are, right? I mean, know what's important to you, know how it's important to you, know how to communicate it. And if we can get to those levels where we do start to do those things and we start to hold a space where we allow it to be done without like prioritizing something over or someone over another,
Hmm.
right? So if you say your boundary is, I don't like waking up at 5 in the morning, and I want to wake up at 5 in the morning, which I don't ever, just to be clear.
Okay, but he has to. He has these three great ways of doing it. He has these three alarms that he sets for himself to make sure that he can do it and then gets up. It's fine. He knows himself well enough to do it. But if we have to get up that early, he's like, I don't really want to do this.
Well, no, I don't like it. I
No,
don't like,
but
but the truth is, waking up or getting out of bed has never been an. I don't like the getting out of bed part. I like a warm bed. It's comfortable, right? You're sleeping, you're recharging. It's a comfortable place to be.
yeah.
But I also know that my boundary can't be, I just want to sit in my warm bed forever because my body, my system, all the other parts of it, they need other things.
Like movement.
They need movement. In fact, I need a lot of movement. My body, if it doesn't move, then I have to start donating blood all the time because I have this thing where iron builds up. So I can either move a whole bunch or donate a whole bunch of blood. And I think moving is probably a better thing for me.
I mean, that's true.
So between those two things, right, you have communications and systems, and your body's a collection of systems that all have their own rules, they all have their own boundaries, and your emotions are communicating what it feels like, what you enjoy, what you don't like, what you maybe get angry about or frustrated about. Within all those emotions, what you're building towards is kind of understanding yourself enough to start to see the things in your life. You start to see the things that you're kind of connected to, and you start to see the emotions that you wish to experience the most. Which are the ones I wish to experience the most, right?
I mean, that's the goal, is to recognize which one you work with the best, really.
We had a conversation not very long ago with somebody who said that they need sadness and melancholy to understand happiness and joy.
And she is very funny, but she is changing some of those ways. We kind of gave her some
She
perspective.
was just adamant, boy. Like
She really was.
you don't understand how happy you are if you don't reach the depths of sadness. And we were just like, I don't think so.
That doesn't work for me, but if that works for you, great.
I mean, yeah, if it's good for you, if that's what you need, and life is going to be a collection of sadness and happiness, and you accept that, and that's what you're creating, then have fun.
But she did make it really well known. It helped her to write. So that, I mean, as long as she understood exactly what it was that worked for her, it works for her, then that's great. Whatever. As long as you know why that it works for you. Any emotion can be great. As long as it works for you.
Exactly. As long, and then you know how to communicate it and connect to the places and people around you. You get to have that emotional, energetic impact, right? And you start to recognize yourself in every moment. You know what boundaries it takes to do those things.
Go ahead.
No, you continue.
Keep going.
No, your turn.
What do you want to say? That was it. There you go. No.
Did we cover the whole list?
I mean, I was looking at my list here. I have a list of things to talk about to make sure I want to cover it all, but I think we did. Yeah. Yeah, basically. Mhm.
So a couple downloads
Yeah,
then?
definitely. What? You first.
Me first.
You said
Rock,
it.
paper, scissors, foot.
Oh.
Ah.
Okay. All right, ready? Download that you understand and recognize your own boundaries for what they are, and that you can voice them, communicate them, and feel that they can be a part of you authentically without feeling like you have to avoid them in order to communicate them. And that you recognize the difference between avoidance and what that feels like from from the perspective creator.
And to know and understand the communication of your emotional self within the collection of your environment, how to interact, how to recognize the connection and communications of others, to find the balance and harmony that increases the moment for you and them through unconditional love.
If you like those downloads, say yes, push thumb up, nod your head, whatever it is. I'll send them your way, and a little bit of extra unconditional love. Awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We really appreciate you. And thank you so much. Yes, let's take a picture. Thank you so much, interpreters.
We're taking a picture. All right.
Yeah, and Kemi would like to take one. I saw her do this, so that usually means pictures. We did see some questions on here, so of course we can always reach out to you, but I couldn't see the full thing.
Yay, pictures.
Yay. Have a fabulous night, everyone. We will see you next time. Oh yeah, you have to turn it off over there. I get to do it myself. Yeah.